Now we will look into the second last chapter, which is the GIS data analysis and manipulations. Okay, so in this chapter we will discuss on what are the analysis can be done in the GIS and how we manipulate the data. Okay, so when we talk about the GIS data analysis, the first one will be the important one is the spatial analysis. So what is a spatial analysis? It is to understand the types of relationship exists between the geographic features and how we want to express those relationship. So the properties of spatial features or relationship between them, such as their size, distribution, pattern, contiguity, neighborhood shape, scale, and as well as orientation. So GIS is a tool with the unique capabilities where it can handle the geographically referenced data, and of course to do some spatial and attribute data entry, and also the updating and data conversion functions, and storage and organizing a variety of spatial and attribute data, to manipulate of spatial and attribute data, to do the presentation of display capabilities, and the most important thing is the spatial analysis tools. We have about more than 200 tools available in the ArcGIS system for you to do spatial analysis. I think you can do a lot of projects from it for your masters or for your PhD later. So for the spatial data structure, so spatial data are the building blocks of any spatial analysis, where, as we discussed before, raster and vector. Alright, I don't want to talk more about this because you can refer from the previous chapters. And the representation of the vectors and spatial objects and the hierarchy of nature objects, point, line, and polygon, something blah 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 like this. And basic elements of the spatial information required to undertake the spatial analysis, such as the location, attribute data, and the topology, as we discussed before. So what are the simple analysis that can use in the GIS? The example will be the measurement of location. So the basic measurement of the spatial locations, where we know that points are defined by the XY coordinates from A to B, and lines are represented by the ordered sequence of pi, blah blah blah. So from this you can the distance between 2 points on the Cartesian plane is derived through the Euclidean distance, and the length of the line segments is the sum total of the Euclidean distance for all segments. If the road have a lot 1000 segments, so we calculate for every segments and we sum of it, and we have the actual line distance of the on the real world based on the coordinates. Okay, and the area of features represent as a polygon and can be computed by constructing a trapezoid from every line segments and systematically aggregate the trapezoid areas. And of course, other than that, we have the attribute data measurement, such as for the categories, numerical, and blah blah blah. And of course, the type of the different analysis, such as a map as an outcome of process. Okay, so we want to show the maps, we want to have maps as an outcome of process. Okay, or you want to have the types of spatial process and the possibility realizations. Okay, either you want to have the deterministic processes where the outcome can be predicted exactly from the knowledge from the data input itself, or stochastic processes where the process outcome is subject to the variation that cannot be given precisely by the mathematical formula, where it can be variable based on the parameters and different variables. Okay, so in order for us to come up with this one, usually there are some assumptions to come up with this. It could be example here, is independent random process or is complete spatial randomness. So to estimate the possibility of the randomness of the points and something like that. So mathematics will be used to predict the frequency distribution under certain specific randomness, right? However, for the real world, usually we are not really characterized by the spatial randomness. Okay, therefore, but in order to try to simulate the real world, we are trying to approach this kind of process to construct the probability of randomness can be generated. And the spatial properties of the entire sets, example like point pattern analysis, is being analyzed the whole entire rather than individual points. Let's say you have 1000 points, all of those 1000 points will be analyzed one by one and one to another, right? And there will be some descriptive statistics can be determined, and also others such as you want to come up with the characters by the geometric center and distribution or something like that, as well as the density based and distance based measurements, ratio of frequency, as well as quadrant counts of the random methods for the points. Okay, for the density based measures also, we are using either the quadrant analysis and the kernel density estimations, where it's based on the frequency of recurrence, and we will be trying to calculate the densities based on the frequency of the points between one to another. Or it could be the patterns to have the density of any locations and to create this continuous surface based on this density. And other than that as well, analysis type can be used for the distance based point pattern measures. Either you want to come up with the categories of the clustered uniform of randomness, okay, to look into the logic of the distance measures, okay. And of course you can also measure the spatial arrangement, either using the nearest neighborhood analysis to measure the degree of the spatial dispersion in a point distributed based on the minimum interpoint distances, okay. And of course to look into the continuous surface descriptions. There's a lot actually. One of it is triangulated irregular networks and also contours, or you can use raster data structures to come up with the DM, yeah, of course. Or you also can have this raster data processing, either using the local operations, simple operations, cell by cell basis, or using the neighborhood spatial operations, using the focus cells to process the neighboring sets, or using the zonal operations to apply the groups to where you can conclude it to belong to the same group or have the common values, usually for you to do the systematic analysis. Or using the global operations, where you trying to calculate the distance measures of the rasters, and after that to come up with this buffering and cost distance measurement. Apart from that as well, we do have this surface analysis, where it's involved analyzing the phenomena, where we have the third dimensions of the frequencies, where it will tells you about the phenomena, okay. Or data types, there's a lot of surface analysis examples such as DMs, teens, and so on. Or you can have to come up with the slope analysis and a lot of geographical or terrain analysis, and many more. So examples here. Of course, you can do this network analysis here, where you can try to using these linear features to come up with the network contiguity, as well as the connectivity and relationship between one network to another network, okay, such as for you to analyzing the structures of the connectivity and the movement or flow over the systems, okay. And of course, you can also try to use the spatial interpolations to interpolate the points into a phenomena that represents the real world phenomena, okay. Either it's global or local, EZ and EZ, and so on, okay. And of course, there are global spatial interpolations, local spatial interpolations, different kinds of let's say IDWs and splines and something like that, okay. Kriging as well is good for the soil analysis if you want to do that. Okay, and of course, how we want to do all of this in ArcGIS, we can use the statistical analysis, where in our lab we will do some of it, where you can try to test based on the data that we have, and you can try to do this Kriging, IDW, trying to represent the real world phenomena, okay. These are the examples, okay. Of course, although I already show you all of these complicated analysis, but we do have these single layer operations, okay, which is the simplest, but it is really useful for you to come up with this analysis, okay. There's a lot, okay, examples here. Let's say feature identification and selections, where we can try to identify, select attribute using the query SQL, feature classifications, overlay operations such as erase, identify, overlay, and many more. And this one is usually be used as well as you can extract the map and more. So these are examples. Okay, you also can estimate the buffer zone easily. Okay, and of course you can use the GIS modeling, where modeling is a representation of the something in the real world or the process in the real world, and also about the data informations about the real world. So a model is basically a representation of reality. Basically, when we're trying to come up with the GIS, our idea is trying to simulate the phenomena of the real world. So GIS modeling is a way forward for you to simulate based on the different parameters with the same processes and task flow. This is the one that you can use. Okay, so these are the stages involved constructing a GIS data model, where you have to know how from the real world how to make a spatial data either in raster or vector. What are the processes happens, what are the what we call it the effects, or what are the reasons behind it, and what are the expected outcome, and the process, what are data required along the process of the different steps, different workflows, in order for you to come up with the final output. It's very important. Okay, so therefore you must have the representation models where the objects of real world through a set of layers, different kind of data models. Okay, for you to come up to show what the real worlds have. And then you have the spatial relationship between objects one to another, and of course the model of the attributes of the objects, and so on. So data model are independent of the specific information in the GIS. Okay, and so most of it we really need efficient data structures because it represents the selected data model completely and unambiguous. It must be robust, efficiently support the data analysis, and use storage space economically. So of course in the data modeling, the process model is very important because it describes the interactions or processes of the object of a real world, which are modeled in the representation model using the map calculation. So you have to know either you want to do the distributive modeling, distance modeling, hydrology modeling, or surface modeling. So how to create a conceptual model to solve a special problem? First, you have to state the problem. What are the problems and what are the goals? And then you have to break the problems down, which is the objective, the interactions, and also the data model and the presentation model. Then you have to set the exploring the data sets, what contained in data sets and the relationship between it. You have to perform the analysis. What are the best tools to run the process models and build a overall model? And you have to verify it. If the data is not good, go back. If the data is good, then you can implement the results. Thank you very much.